We are back, Calf Kick Sports Podcast. Make sure to subscribe. Thank you so much to our listeners. We had well over 100 listeners in just under 24 hours in our last video. Huge thank you. Make sure to subscribe. And we are back and covering Jiří versus Reyes from this Saturday night. The young Czech getting an incredible, emphatic, spinning back elbow TKO victory in the second round. My name's Tim Wheaton. Check me out at Tim Wheaton MMA and Calf Kick Sports on Instagram. Joined as always by Ash. Ash, what's going on?
Good, mate. Just enjoying my bank holiday, having a bit of fun. So got a few days off work, which is great. But honestly, 15 times, honestly, I can't stop watching it. How action-packed it was. Many things, to discuss with that. I think the main thing with that fight in particular is Jiří's toughness. I mean, we all knew he was tough. We all knew he could take a shot. Did you expect him to take, at least 12 to 15 left hands from Dominick Reyes, keep moving forward and not even get marked up? Were you expecting that? I was not expecting that.
Well, I think that was the thing of like, he either takes too many left hands, takes too many leg kicks, and eventually he will go down because there's no possible way that he just keeps moving forward. Instead, what we saw is he kind of figured out the left. I wouldn't say that he figured out the left hand. He was still eating the left hand as the fight was going on. Even when it was great. Yeah. It was so exciting. He just keeps coming forward. Even during the finishing sequence, I think he took a couple of shots that would have put down other people, but he's notoriously tough and just incredibly impressive that he was able to, I think he countered the leg kicks just by throwing really hard crosses to counter the leg kick.
Absolutely, mate. I mean, in terms of that, what I was most shocked at was when they were exchanging. So Reyes started the fight really well. He actually pressed the action. If you looked at the first 2 minutes, landed some nice left kicks. Sorry, right leg kicks, left body kick. He landed that a few times. A few left straights. It didn't even matter. After 2 minutes, Jiří was like, you know what? I don't think you can knock me out. I'm going to start throwing this right cross here. And it was a hellacious right cross. I think Reyes had a really good poker face because I think he was even more tagged than he let on. And he looked like he was hurt badly. As soon as he was hurt, Reyes backed down. He was like, oh shit, this guy can fucking crack. I mean, this guy can really hurt me. I need to back up a little bit. Rest of the fight, he backed up. He was like, yeah, I can't go toe to toe with this guy. If I exchange with this guy, I'm just going to end up getting knocked out. And I mean, it happened eventually. He had really good moments, as we predicted. In the last podcast, we predicted that he'll be backing up. He'll be landing some really good power shots. He might even knock him out on the way while he's backing up. He almost did in the second round as well, which is crazy. What I was most impressed with was just the fucking toughness of Jiří. He is so damn tough. And he just keeps his hands down the whole time. None of the rules apply to Jiří, apparently.
No, he comes in like a hands down. It's just insane to watch him fight, especially in a mixed martial arts fight where the risk is so much higher in these smaller gloves. He's in a bigger weight class, and yet he's still just hands at the hips, but he's throwing power shots, even from the very first round to his TKO. He's throwing absolute bombs. And I think, like you said, Reyes came out really hot, and after a few exchanges, he realized how much power Jiří is packing. And the insane thing is, Jiří did get knocked down a couple of times. I think in the first round and the second round, there was a moment where you thought, oh, yeah, Jiří's on skates here. He's not looking good. He was
definitely stunned. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. And he even got stunned, got a takedown. So he is a man who's a little bit hittable, who gets away with notorious toughness, but he was still able to evade a lot of strikes. I think he figured out a lot of things because he was constantly with forward pressure against Reyes, and Reyes had one counter that he kind of did. And I think throughout the fight, Prochazka was okay with that, and he was figuring out the counters and where it was, and that's why he wasn't scared of him. Every second of this fight, Prochazka was moving forward, and just like we expected, Reyes' back was constantly against the cage. That's where he likes to fight, and he wasn't able to land too many great counters. Honestly, in a different fight, I think it's possible that Reyes actually does get a TKO victory here. One of the crazy things in our last video, we were covering Tony Ferguson, who gets something like 6 significant strikes per average. Prochazka in this fight had over 7 significant strikes per minute. This guy is just aggressive, constantly throwing leather. It's such a joy to watch.
And it's not like he was very accurate, Tim, because he was landing 7 strikes with a 45% striking accuracy rate. So how many strikes was he throwing just to get those 7 strikes, significant strikes per minute? If you just break the stats down like that, the guy has got a ridiculous gas tank. He will not start coming forward. He's like the second coming of Chuck Liddell. I swear to God, like he's just insane pressure. More, maybe / Tony Ferguson, light heavyweight version of Tony Ferguson with that spinning back elbow that he KO'd Reyes with. I will say this, though. I think Reyes made a huge technical mistake right towards the end of that fight. So what Reyes did was, and I watched it a few times quite obsessively, the last 2 minutes when he tagged Prochazka was like, fuck, man, I'm going to have to go for a takedown. I desperately have to go for a takedown. Otherwise, this guy's going to put me out. Instead of Reyes, defending the takedown, circling away, taking his time and being patient, like, example being the Jared Cannonier fight. Instead of that, he just thought, I'm just going to pull guard and go for a guillotine. And I was like, oh, no, man, if he doesn't get this, Jiří's going to recover. And I think he's probably still going to beat Reyes. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. I lost money that fight. That's why I was very emotionally invested. I was like, come on, Reyes. You know what? It doesn't matter, man. Second coming of Chuck Liddell right here.
He does actually remind me of someone. I thought the same thing. He reminds me of someone who fights during the Chuck Liddell era. I don't know if it's like a Keith Hardy. I'm not sure exactly who he reminds me of, but I think it's the constant forward, relentless pressure at these higher weight classes, and he just doesn't care about getting hit. But yeah, the meta of the fights have moved on from you want to take a guillotine, because usually a guillotine, like we saw with Khabib and Poirier, you're where the guy wants you to be. You are now on your back. So you should never go for a guillotine against a wrestler, because that's where he wants you to be. And this is kind of an example of, in the future, we're going to use this fight as an example of like, yeah, don't go for the guillotine. Just try to push him off and hit him as many times as possible, because now you're on your back. Somehow Reyes actually landed a couple of really good up kicks that we all thought were almost ending the fight. But is it, okay, does Jiří, do you think he kind of embellishes when he's hit a little bit? Like, does he float around like some drunken fist from Mortal Kombat or something like that? Like, does he kind of put on a little bit? Because every time he hits, yeah, go on.
You think? I don't think he plays possum. I almost feel like he likes getting rocked, because it's almost like he gets better as he gets rocked. He gets more aggressive. The tempo increases. There's like a switch in his brain, the same as what wounded animals go through. He attacks even more aggressively, which is ridiculous. I mean, when do you see that? Someone gets tagged, they get hurt a little bit, and instead of backing up and playing a smart game, he just presses forward. I don't know if this will work against other tougher opponents, but my God, man, Jiří is a hell of a lot of fun. I'm so glad he's in the UFC. I wouldn't be opposed to him being the champion. It would be like a Robbie Lawler type run, man, at welterweight. I feel like he'd be stopping dudes, if he becomes the champ, and emphatically as well.
No, he's an incredibly exciting fighter, and we just kind of love to see. He's a member of Team All Violence. Absolutely. That's the kind of guy he is. How does he fare against the others in the division? Because as we know, actually, you know what? Before we jump into what's next for these guys, let's talk about the finishing sequence.
Yeah.
He lands a big elbow into a spinning back elbow and puts Dominick Reyes pretty much into the hospital. How about that finishing sequence? I don't know what we can say. It was incredible, right?
Oh, my goodness. Best KO of the year so far. What's a better KO than than this year? There's nothing better that I mean, I'm tongue tied, Tim. It's just a ridiculous KO. And watching that at 6 a.m. almost, I was like half asleep, and I was like, "Fuck me!" This fight completely woke me up. It took me another 2 hours to go back to sleep, but I think he's got only the third spinning back elbow in the UFC. So there's Dong Kyung Kim, who's one of them, and Ricardo Ramos. No, I can't remember who the other guy is now. No, Ricardo Lamas, not Ramos. Yeah, so it's just those two guys really that have got a spinning back elbow. He's already breaking records, man, and he's only in second fight in.
No, it's incredible. And it's crazy to say that might be the best KO of 2021. We're only halfway through 2021. And there's been some amazing KOs already this year. We have like Edgar versus Sanhagen with that flying knee. We have Poirier McGregor was this year. Blades versus Lewis. Even Nagano versus Miocic was this year. Usman versus Masvidal. We just had Zhang versus Namajunas just like 2 weeks ago. And now we're saying like Jiří Procházka. 2021 has just been an absolute insane year when it comes to MMA.
It's bizarre, man. It's bizarre. I mean, I think I saw a picture the other day and he goes, would you have predicted this in 2021? So it's Conor getting knocked out. It's which is, for me a year ago, I'm like, what are you talking about? Conor's got a ridiculous chin. He's never getting knocked out. And he got knocked out. And then you've got Demetrius Johnson that got knocked out. And then you got Izzy that lost. I mean, it's not a knockout loss, but it's just so many upsets this year. I mean, if you are a gambler, it's not so great if you just bet on the favorite this year. You'd be losing a ton of money.
Yeah, it's incredibly hard sport to bet on for that reason. I know that you take the risk and do gamble on it, but what's next for these guys? So Jiří Procházka, we know is a gentleman who will be next for the title. We have Glover versus Jan Blachowicz as the next fight. How does Jiří face against either of those men in your eyes?
God, I almost feel like I shouldn't even make a prediction. By the way, you got a spot on, mate. Second round TKO, Jiří Procházka. We did
luck,
predict
just luck.
Second round TKO. But what I was really kind of confused about almost is, going into the last fight, I was thinking, it's definitely going to be Reyes. Jiří is not tough enough to take those shots. I was obviously wrong. Now, going forward, if Jiří fights Jan, people are saying, well, you can't take those shots against Jan. If Jan cracks him, he's done. Jan's going to beat him in 2 rounds. Jiří can't keep his hands down. Who the fuck knows, man? We don't know how tough this guy is. I mean, he's only been knocked out once in my life, and I almost don't even count that because he was so fatigued and exhausted against Molawal. He was clearly a shell of himself, and it was quite a few years ago. Ever since then, he's proven his durability. Now, in terms of Jan versus Glover, I'm just going to be throwing out there, I think Jan would win. So we're just going forward. If we're talking about Jan versus Jiří specifically, it's going to be an interesting fight. I don't think Jiří is going to change his strategy too much or his game plan, but it depends. I certainly wouldn't change it too much. I mean, his strategy is what got into the dance originally. So I don't see the big deal of changing it too much. The only thing is, and the big X factor is, can he take Jan's power? And if he can take Jan's power, Jan's in for a quick night.
Yeah, it's tough to really gauge Jan Blachowicz because he's a guy that we know he's a champion. We know he's beaten all these other really great fighters. And I think all MMA fans kind of walk away with the feeling that he is not incredibly talented. He's kind of has a workman-like mentality. He's a very blue-collar type of fighter of like, he's either going to crack with you and knock you out, or he'll happily grind you out over a 5-round decision. But he's not like an extremely emphatic winner like we see with Jiří, who's just these larger-than-life knockouts, these exciting, crazy fights that he's constantly in. Someone like Jan, I don't know that we get a really good feeling of his strengths and weaknesses, other than he might just be 1% better in every area than his opponent. But I think from what we've seen so far, I think Glover is actually a worse fight for Jiří. I think if you're Jiří, you want to fight Jan, right?
Yeah.
Go on.
No, absolutely. I mean, Glover's top pressure. So just going back to the Reyes fight, if you were to link it to that, Reyes took him down with the body lock. As we predicted, he's weak to. He's weak to getting taken down by body locks. Something that I've seen Glover be very good at. He's not very good at single legs. You're right, but I've seen him take people down with body locks, trips, all that kind of thing. Now, if it was Glover that was on top of Jiří, the way that Reyes was, I don't know, man. I don't think Jiří's going to just completely get up with pure brute strength as he did. He didn't really get up with any technique. He just kind of exploded up, just smashed his way up. And because of that, I do agree. Glover could easily hold him down, keep him there for a couple of minutes, smash him with elbows, soften him up, and sub him. So it's a worse matchup for him to go against Glover. Now, against Jan, you're absolutely right. I think that would work better in his favor. It would mainly be on the feet. But hey, look, Jan's kind of proven himself to be a wrestler against Izzy, a good wrestler. So hard to say, really. He'll be the tougher matchup. I tend to agree with you, though. I think Glover would definitely be a tougher matchup.
No, I agree with you. And I would love to see Blachowicz versus Jiří as some Central European, like do it at the National Stadium in Warsaw or something like that. I think that'd be really cool.
Oh, that's exactly, yeah. Also Poland, yeah? That would be amazing.
It would just be awesome to do some Central European, put it in the good time zone there and stuff like that. There's some really great opportunities to grow the sport. It struggled to grow in Europe, as you and I were talking about. Just like it's a hard time zone to watch this stuff, but it's a great opportunity. We just did the Marvel Stadium last year in Australia for the fans there, and I think this is a very similar of like you really want to push it when you have two guys who are champions from the region. Really push it, like make a stadium, make it a big deal, and you'll get some lifetime fans out of it. But I think Jan versus Jiří is a great fight to make. I think in that fight I would almost pick Jiří, but I'm not very confident on it. I think he just kind of finds the opening, but at the same time he might just get knocked out in the first round. I will confidently say this is probably a maximum 2-round fight, Jan versus Jiří. I mean,
yeah, agreed, man. I mean, they're just two big power strikers. Jiří is huge for this division now. I think most people forget that it's like Go-Go Gadget arms. He's got such long reach for that division. And if he wanted to be very technical against Jan, I think he can really put Jan in trouble. But for the most part, I'm not going to make a prediction on that too early. I got to see both of those guys kind of fight history a bit more deeper. But if you were just to ask me now, I probably would go Jan, just purely for the fact that, Jan is a bit more of a technical striker. I mean, in the orthodox way. I'm not saying he's better, but, he keeps his hands up. He keeps everything fairly tight. He doesn't tend to take unnecessary shots for no reason. Even against Izzy, who's a very, very accurate striker, to tag him over and over again. So, yeah, I mean, just initial thoughts, I think I will be going with Jan. But hey, look, I've gone against Jiří before, and look what that's happened to.
That's right. He just lost some money. No, Dominick Reyes is in a little bit of a tough spot. He's lost to a champion, and he's lost to a contender. And it's tough. Like those are all marquee fights. They were all main event fights. He's still technically in the top 5 at this moment. He probably moves down to the top 10. What is next for a Dominick Reyes? Where do you see his career going now?
I'd love for him to have a tune-up fight. Yeah, I'd love for him to have a tune-up fight, Tim. I think right now, we don't see this enough in MMA where, in boxing, you get some tune-up fights after taking a heavy loss. You've lost the world title. In dramatic fashion, especially, you wouldn't necessarily get a world title shot right away. They do have these tune-up fights. And I think that's what happened to Reyes. I mean, arguably he won against Jones, but after losing a second world title shot, I don't think it would have been very smart for him to go straight into a number 1 contender slot. I think he should have taken someone in the, maybe 6 or 7 ranked guy in the world. Now, what I'd like to see him do is fight someone who's, maybe ranked number 10 or someone who's just an up and comer, kind of just build his profile up again. I don't want to see him do a 5-round fight. I think he should do 3 rounds just to get used to doing, get his confidence up. He's not won in a very long time now, about 2 years almost. I've got an exciting matchup for him. It might be, I'm not too sure if this is going to be a good idea, but I would like to see him against someone who's an up and comer, such as Jimmy Crute, for example, when he gets better. I think that would be a great fight.
Yeah, Jimmy Crute, Johnny Walker. There's a few names, maybe a Nikita Krylov, and there is a lot of pressure going into those fights for Reyes. He almost needs a win if he were to fight a guy in the bottom of the top 10. So it's a lot of pressure because if he loses to someone like Misha Serkinov, you really have to start thinking about your career. And he's a young man. He has ample room for improvement. He can still make a huge run out of this. Like we were just talking about, Glover Teixeira has been around for, I don't know, since since he's been fighting since UFC 3, when he made his debut 25 years ago. But no, he's still a young man. He's in his early 30s. He has lots of opportunity to improve, but there is a lot of pressure on his next fight where he has to win. And I think a long break, I think making defensive adjustments, because he still showed the ability to counter strike here, but he does the same defense where he backs himself to the cage. And it almost like played into the game of Jiří here, who's, like you said, these long arms were striking around the guard.
Yeah.
And I think against certain other guys, it may not work. He should be able to beat a Johnny Walker, but it wouldn't also be a surprise if Johnny Walker just struck around the guard, was extremely aggressive, landed some flying knees and stuff like that. But that is a fight that Dominick Reyes should be able to win, right?
I think so. I mean, yeah, it's hard to say, because I wouldn't say Reyes is nowhere near done being washed. He still looked really good against Jiří. He almost stopped him, man. And again, I think he showed incredible toughness. I mean, Dominick Reyes is as tough as they come. Another man against Jiří might have been stopped in the first, but he took his best shots. He kept going forward. He rocked him after getting hurt. So he's in my opinion, he still could be a world champion. He's just got a long road ahead of himself, and I feel like whoever's next, he definitely has got to work on some of the flaws that you've mentioned. He's not very good at inside fighting, and we picked up on this in the last fight. His hooks, he needs to work more on kind of getting in there, getting a bit rough. Maybe throwing elbows. I mean, I know he was a bit more active on throwing inside elbows and those inside hooks. His straight is good. He fights long really well, but as soon as someone backs him up, he's not the same fighter, and that's something that he definitely has to work on, in my opinion.
Oh, definitely. Exchanges, defensive strike. There's a few things that he clearly needs to work on. But even given those flaws, he's a world-class fighter. Like you said, he can still develop into a world champion. Anything else we need to cover up before we head out of here? What do you think?
Just such an exciting fight. I'm really excited to kind of see the progression, the rise of Jiří, and I really do hope that Jan wins his next fight. I know it sounds I'm betraying Glover here, but I think a Jiří versus Jan Blachowicz fight is going to do big numbers for the UFC, especially if they do it in Poland, as you mentioned.
Oh, absolutely. I think that'd be an amazing fight. I agree with you. I think that'd be an incredible fight. Do it in Central Europe, do it in Poland. That would be the coolest thing. Thanks so much for listening, folks. Make sure to subscribe. Check us out on social media. We are Cafcake Sports on Instagram, at Tim Wheaton MMA on Twitter. My name's Tim Wheaton, joined as always by Ash. We appreciate you joining us. Ash?
Have a good one, guys. Can't wait for the next one. And make sure you like and subscribe.
Perfect. Thanks, man.